There's a room in our house I wasn't allowed to open. At first, I thought it was just space for her writing, private, personal. But over time, the door became a wall between us. And when I finally stepped inside, I realized I had never truly known the woman I married. This story isn't just about infidelity. It's about trust shattered, lies hidden in plain sight, and what happens when love becomes a mask for betrayal. I wish it wasn't my story, but it is. To everyone who's already subscribed, thank you for your constant support. You're the reason these real-life inspired stories keep coming. If you're new here, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss each chapter as it drops. More dramatic, heart-wrenching stories are on the way. Stay with us. They say every marriage has its secrets. Ours had a door. It was a simple white door at the end of the hallway, just beyond our bedroom. No fancy locks. No signs. Just a door that my wife, Lydia, gently asked me never to open. She said it was her creative space, a sanctuary for her writing. And I believed her. At first, I thought nothing of it. Lydia was a quiet woman, artistic, introspective. She worked from home, part-time copywriting and ghostwriting romance novels. She liked her coffee black, her mornings silent, and her routine uninterrupted. I respected that. I respected her. We'd been married 5 years. We lived just outside Peoria, Illinois, in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood with nosy neighbors and perfectly trimmed lawns. To everyone else, we looked like the perfect couple, two middle-aged professionals with no kids, no drama, just a golden retriever named Milo and a shared love for crossword puzzles and quiet Sunday mornings. But behind closed doors, behind that one closed door, something darker was growing. It started with the change in her eyes. Lydia used to look at me with softness. Like I was the person who made her feel safe in a chaotic world. But somewhere between year 4 and 5, her gaze shifted. It wasn't angry or cold. It was distracted, distant. Like I had become background noise in her carefully curated life. She stopped asking me how my day was. She stopped laughing at my corny jokes. And most of all, she stopped letting me near that room. I used to walk past it without thinking. But now, I found myself slowing down. Listening. Watching. Wondering. There were moments, strange ones, where I'd swear I heard voices from behind the door. Whispers. A soft thud. Once, I heard a laugh. A male laugh. I told myself I was imagining things. That she was probably just watching videos or listening to audiobooks for inspiration. But even that excuse began to unravel. One night, around midnight, I woke up and realized Lydia wasn't in bed. I figured maybe she couldn't sleep, she sometimes got bursts of creativity at odd hours. I padded through the hallway, quietly, not trying to startle her. That's when I saw the light. It leaked from beneath the door. A soft yellow glow, like a lamp or overhead light. I could hear her voice, low and quick, like she was in a deep conversation. I stood there frozen, staring at the glow, listening for clues. Then I heard something that made my chest tighten. A man's voice. It was muffled, but clear enough to recognize it wasn't from a speaker. It was close. Inside. I backed away. Quickly. Silently. My heart hammering so hard I thought she might hear it. I slipped back into bed and pretended I had never left. She returned 20 minutes later, slipped under the covers, and whispered, "Couldn't sleep. Wrote a few pages." I didn't respond. The next morning, I almost asked her. I wanted to look her in the eyes and say, "Who were you talking to last night?" But I didn't. I chickened out. Instead, I kissed her on the forehead and said, "I'll pick up groceries after work." Because love makes you second-guess your own gut. Because when you've built a life with someone, you don't want to believe they're capable of lies. I started doing little things to feed my doubt. I checked the garbage for extra coffee cups. I began to notice how often she locked her phone. And the more I paid attention, the more I realized how often she avoided me altogether. One day, I came home early from work. It was a Friday. Lydia thought I was gone until 6, but I walked through the door at 4:30. The house was silent. No voices. No light from under the mysterious door. But her car was in the driveway. I stepped down the hallway. Slowly. The door was closed. The air smelled faintly of cologne, one I didn't wear. I touched the doorknob. It was warm. I turned it gently. Locked. That night, she was cold. Kept checking her phone. Ate half her dinner and claimed she had a headache. I watched her walk back into the hallway, barefoot, phone pressed to her ear. She disappeared into the locked room again. I didn't follow. But something in me snapped. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was suspicion. Obsession. I needed to know what was behind that door. Not because I wanted to catch her doing something wrong, but because I needed to know if I had been living a lie. I started planning. I waited until the next week when Lydia left for her writer's retreat in Michigan, 3 days at a quiet inn with spotty reception and no distractions. She kissed me goodbye and told me to feed Milo and water the plants. I smiled, told her to enjoy her trip, and waited for her car to disappear down the street. Then I went to the drawer where she kept her keys. They weren't there. Of course, they weren't. But I had time. And determination. And a burning need to finally open that room. The second she pulled out of the driveway, I stood at the end of the hallway, staring at that door like it was a living thing. It looked the same as always. White, silent, perfectly ordinary. But now it pulsed with meaning. I had one shot. 3 days. And I was done pretending. I searched the house for a spare key. I checked the kitchen drawers, the jewelry box in her closet, even under the lining of her nightstand. Nothing. Then I remembered the old lockpick kit my brother gave me for Christmas years ago, a joke gift, something to unleash my inner spy, he said. I dug it out from the basement box labeled camping stuff, and my hands trembled as I crouched before the door. The lock was basic. Probably not changed since the house was built. Click. It opened. The air hit me first. Heavy. Warm. Like breath from a mouth that had been holding secrets too long. And then I stepped inside. It wasn't what I expected. No chaos. No bed or tangled sheets. No other man standing there with a smirk and a cigarette. Instead, it was neat. Carefully arranged. Almost reverent. There was a desk against the far wall, framed by soft lighting. A laptop sat open. A cup of coffee, cold. A thick notebook lay beside it, covered in Lydia's handwriting. But the walls, they stopped me cold. Photos. Dozens of them. All of me. Some were old, us from vacation, me mowing the lawn, cooking dinner, sleeping. But others I never even knew were taken. Me in the shower. Me changing. Me sitting alone in my car, staring out the windshield. I felt sick. Pinned beside the photos were notes. Observations. Like journal entries. He doesn't suspect yet. He still brings me coffee. Guilt eats me alive. He looked at me today like he used to. I couldn't look back. I backed away from the wall like it was fire. My hands were shaking now. What was this? What was this room? I opened the notebook and started to read. The entries began innocently, ideas for stories, dream fragments, quotes. But by page 20, things changed. He came over again today. I told myself it would just be coffee. It wasn't. I keep thinking I'll end it. But when he touches me, I forget my name. He wants me to leave my husband. Says he'll take care of me. Part of me wants to confess. The other part wants to destroy everything. I flipped faster now. Page after page of guilt, lust, fear. She'd been seeing someone. In our house. In the room I wasn't allowed to open. And she documented every moment of it. There was a name. Grayson. The next paragraph told me everything. Grayson said he doesn't care if I stay married. He likes the danger. But it's getting harder to lie to my husband. I think he's starting to notice. I dropped the notebook. I opened her laptop. It wasn't password protected. Emails. Hundreds of them. Some recent, some old. The subject lines told the story before I even clicked. Last night was everything. I can still smell you. Your husband has no idea. Some had photos attached. Not the kind I wanted to see. And there were video calls, recordings saved in a folder labeled rough drafts. I opened one. Lydia was sitting at her desk, hair down, wearing my college t-shirt. She was smiling, the kind of smile she hadn't given me in years. Grayson's voice came through the speakers, soft, low, teasing. She laughed. I paused it. Shut the lid. I stood in the middle of that room, surrounded by proof, and I realized something. I had no idea who my wife really was. I took photos of everything, the walls, the journal pages, the emails. I couldn't trust myself to remember it all. My brain was already fogging over, pushing me toward denial, rage, heartbreak. But I needed evidence. Not for court. Not for revenge. For clarity. For truth. For me. Then I cleaned it all up. Left everything exactly as I found it. Closed the door. Locked it. Returned the lockpick kit to the box. When Lydia came home 2 days later, she kissed me like nothing had changed. Asked about Milo. Told me the retreat was refreshing. I looked at her for a long time before I said anything. You still writing the same story? She paused. The same one I've always been writing, she said. I nodded. Right. And that was the moment I knew, I couldn't stay in this house with that door still standing. I used to believe there was a right time to talk about everything. Marriage taught me differently. Timing doesn't always wait for readiness. Sometimes, truth punches through the quiet moments and leaves wreckage behind. The morning after Lydia returned from her retreat, I woke up before her. She lay peacefully next to me, breathing steady, the sunlight spilling over her shoulder. I studied her, the curve of her jaw, the freckle near her ear, the way her hand rested lightly on my chest. How many mornings like this had been a lie? I got out of bed and made coffee. I didn't say a word until she sat across from me at the kitchen table, sipping hers. Her smile was light, casual. She hummed. Like nothing had changed. I went into the room, I said softly. Her cup paused just inches from her lips. Then lowered. She didn't ask which room. She knew. Lydia set the mug down slowly. You had no right. No right? I snapped, surprising even myself. No right to open a door in my own house. To find out what's been happening under my nose. She stood, hands shaking just slightly. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. Go ahead. Explain Grayson. The emails. The photos. The video calls. The way you've been documenting my every move like I'm some kind of lab experiment. She didn't answer. Just stared at me with this raw kind of shame and defiance twisted into one. He was supposed to be a phase, she whispered. Just a stupid mistake. Then why is he in half your notebook? Why are you still talking to him? Why did you lie every single day, kiss me like nothing was wrong, and then run to him the second I left for work? Lydia turned away. I didn't plan for it to happen like that. I didn't want to fall for him. But you did, I said. And you kept it going. She sank into the nearest chair like her knees gave out. I was lonely, okay? You stopped noticing me. Everything became a routine. Same dinners, same conversations, same silences. I felt invisible. I wanted to scream. But instead, I just looked at her. You could have told me, I said. You could have said something instead of. Instead of cheating, she said, bitterly. Yeah. I know. For a long minute, there was nothing. Just the humming fridge and the ticking of the wall clock. Why him? I asked. She looked down. Her voice was small now. He made me feel like I mattered again. Those words shouldn't have shattered me. But they did. I went to the bedroom and brought out the printed photos I took from the room. I dropped them on the table in front of her. Her breath caught in her throat. She reached for them, then pulled back. I don't know who you are anymore, I said. I don't either, she whispered. That was the most honest thing either of us had said in weeks. For the next few hours, we barely spoke. She walked around the house like a ghost. I took Milo for a long drive, thinking, questioning, remembering. When I came back, she was on the porch. Crying. I deleted everything, she said. The emails. The recordings. The photos. I burned the journal. I couldn't let it live any longer. That doesn't erase what happened, I replied. I know. But maybe it's a start. I sat beside her, silent. I don't expect forgiveness, Lydia said. I don't even know if I deserve a second chance. But I swear to you, I never wanted to stop loving you. I turned to her. Her face was red, puffy, vulnerable. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, I told her. But whatever comes next. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. She nodded. Fair. That night, we slept in separate rooms. For the first time since we bought this house. There was no screaming. No thrown objects. Just space. Silence. Truth. A fracture neither of us could unsee. But deep down, I knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the middle. The ugly, painful middle. What came next would either break us completely, or force us to rebuild something entirely new. You don't fully understand what silence is until it follows a confession like Lydia's. It's not just the absence of sound. It's a presence, loud, suffocating, watching everything. A ghost that lingers in the corners of rooms you once laughed in. And in our house, that ghost now lived with us. Lydia kept mostly to herself after the confrontation. I slept in the guest room, at first to get space, but soon it became normal. Almost like we were roommates haunted by a dead marriage, pretending not to see the body. She tried, I'll give her that. She started making breakfast again. She texted me during the day. Small things. But it was like offering bandages to someone still bleeding from the knife you left in their back. One night, about a week later, I found her sitting in the living room, lights low, staring at the empty fireplace. Her eyes were red again. You okay? I asked, even though I knew she wasn't. She gave a humorless smile. You don't have to check on me. I didn't come to check. I came to talk. We sat together, facing forward, saying nothing for a long time. Finally, I asked, is he gone? Grayson, she said, and then sighed. I blocked him. Deleted everything. Did he fight it? Try to reach out? She hesitated. For a few days. Then he stopped. Guess he realized I meant it. I nodded, feeling strange, not relief, not closure. Just emptiness. I want to try, she whispered. I want to fix this. I looked at her. The woman I married. The one who stood before me in a white dress and promised forever. And the same woman who created a secret world in a locked room. How do you fix something when you broke it so personally? I asked. Her voice cracked. One day at a time. If you let me. That night, I dreamed of the room again. Only this time, it wasn't locked. I walked in freely. But the walls bled. The photographs screamed. And in the center stood Lydia, holding her journal like a weapon. Her face twisted with sadness and something close to pity. I woke up drenched in sweat. The following day, I started therapy. Alone at first. I didn't tell Lydia. I wasn't ready to bring her into the space I needed to feel safe again. I told my therapist everything. About the locked room. About the man. About how I felt stupid, small, betrayed. I confessed the worst thought of all, that I hated how much I still loved her. Week by week, I peeled layers off myself. And on the 5th session, I said something I hadn't allowed myself to believe before. She built a life inside our house that didn't include me. My therapist nodded. And what do you want to build now? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. Lydia eventually asked to join me in therapy. That was the first time I saw her truly afraid. Afraid I'd say no. But I didn't. Because deep down, a part of me still remembered the before. The long walks. The shared playlists. The bad movies we both loved. If there was even a 1% chance we could find our way back, I owed it to that version of us. Our couples sessions were brutal. Honest. Ugly. There were tears. Rage. Silence. But there was also honesty. She told me she never felt more seen than when she was doing something wrong. I told her I never felt more invisible than when she was pretending nothing had changed. And slowly, we started unburying the pieces. One night, a few months later, we stood in front of the room. I had painted over it, kept it empty, closed. She looked at me and said, "Can we make this a nursery someday?" It hit me harder than I expected. I nodded. Not as a promise. But as a possibility. The ghost in the house was still there. Some nights I swore I felt it sitting beside me. But it didn't feel as strong. As loud. Maybe we weren't ignoring it anymore. Maybe we were just learning to live with it. Some wounds don't heal perfectly. They scar. But they stop bleeding. And sometimes, that's enough. They say trust is like glass, once broken, it can be mended, but the cracks will always show. I used to believe that was just something people said to sound poetic. But now I understand what it really means. You can glue it, polish it, even try to pretend it never shattered. But when the light hits it just right, the fractures are always there, reminding you of what happened. Still, here we are. Lydia and I didn't magically find happiness. We didn't light candles, kiss, and forget. But we started rebuilding, slowly, deliberately, and with every flaw laid bare. 6 months after that final conversation in front of the room, we moved. Not because we were running, but because we wanted a fresh space, one that didn't carry echoes of whispers or memories of a locked door. We found a modest house outside of Asheville, North Carolina. It wasn't fancy. But it had a lot of windows and warm wood floors. It felt open. Honest. We kept one room empty, not because we were afraid of what it might hold, but because we were saving it. For what, we didn't know yet. A nursery? A studio? Maybe just a quiet place to sit and read together in silence. This time, we promised, no secrets. No locked doors. I won't lie, I still have days when it creeps back in. Days when she's on her phone too long, and my stomach tightens. Nights when I roll over and she's not beside me, and my thoughts race. But Lydia sees it. She feels the shift. And instead of dismissing it, she leans in. I'm here, she'll whisper. It's okay to ask. That simple sentence, it's everything. It's trust not just rebuilt, but nurtured. One evening, we were sitting on the porch. Lydia held a mug of tea between her palms, and the sky was that soft peach blue just before nightfall. I used to think love meant protecting someone from the truth, she said. But now I think it means letting them see all of you, even the parts you hate. I looked at her, really looked at her, no longer the woman I married, but someone different. Someone shaped by mistakes, grief, shame, and courage. I still love you, I said. But it's not the same kind of love. I know, she said softly. It's more complicated now. Heavier. But it's real. She reached for my hand, and we sat like that until the sun disappeared. So, what does trust look like now? It looks like calendars shared and passwords known, not out of control, but out of respect. It looks like therapy appointments marked down like sacred meetings. It looks like accountability, not punishment. It looks like listening even when it hurts, and staying even when it would be easier to leave. It looks like learning how to love the scar, not just the skin. 1 year to the day after I opened that locked room, we burned her old journal. Together. We stood in the backyard under the stars. Lydia held it for a moment, kissed the cover, and tossed it into the fire pit. The flames devoured it in seconds, curling paper and ink into memory. That's not who I want to be anymore, she said. And this, I said, taking her hand, is who we are now. Not perfect. Not innocent. But still here. And sometimes, that's enough. Thank you for staying with me through this story. It wasn't easy to tell, and it certainly wasn't easy to live. But maybe someone out there needed to hear it. Maybe someone else is standing in front of a locked door, debating whether to turn the knob. If that's you, be brave. No matter what you find on the other side. Because the truth may hurt, but lies can haunt. And healing only begins in the light.